There we go. All right, now we're ready to go live. Hey, everybody. Welcome. Happy Friday to you. And today we're talking about the Rings of Power. All right, now, before I say anything else, I want the first half or so of this live stream to be spoiler free as much as possible. That being said, of course, it's only been a couple of episodes, so it's not like we don't have anything incredibly spoilery to share, but still be considerate of those who haven't had a chance yet to watch the show. Because I want them to have a chance to participate in the conversation as well. And then, at some point, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes in, if, depending on how the conversation is going, we will flip over to spoiler mode and I will mark that clearly. In fact, you know what? I can mark that right now. Let's see. Okay, let's add that banner. And we're going to put that, okay, so we're just going to leave that up, I think, right now. Oh, gosh, this freaking microphone, I swear. What I need is a new arm for this microphone because this one is a little weak. A little weak. All right, there we go. So, yeah, that should help take care of any of the potential questions going on. All right, so Murph 1976 says, tough question. All right, what question are we referring to? Let's find out. Oh, here, let's do this. Share screen. There we go. All right, which did you enjoy more? So if you check the pinned comment, you should be able to go and vote on this. So which did you enjoy more, House of Dragons or Rings of Power? Go give it a vote. I pinned that message on YouTube. I didn't do that on Facebook because I've forgotten what Facebook is at this point. I don't know about the rest of you. We are broadcasting on Facebook, but I don't know if any of our Facebook followers did or will notice that. All right. So Murph says first episode of Rings of Power was better, but the opposite for the second episode. I think that's perfectly defensible. Brett says, so far, the House of the Dragon is vastly more enjoyable to me. We'll see if that changes. And I think that's fair too. I do think, and we'll get a little bit more into this, but as you guys know from last week and one or two episodes, podcast episodes, I've had it up to here with that there are those on the internet who seem determined to hate the show, and I just don't have a lot of patience for that. If you didn't like it, you have reasons why you didn't like it. Like after you saw the show, I didn't care for this change, or I didn't like the way this character was portrayed, or I think that's all totally fair. It's just there are those who. Yeah, I think enjoy hating stuff, and so they've been excited to hate this show. Anyway, but yeah, pop over to that. You should be able to use the link to vote, whether you're on mobile, you're on desktop. I think it just opens it up in a new tab, if I'm not mistaken. So you should be able to pop over and give it a vote. I'll be interested to see what you guys have to say about it, and so we'll check in on that every once in a while. So far, it's the characters for me. Really enjoying the visuals. Yeah, and I think that's totally fair. It is requiring me to open up my mind to some possibilities for characterization outside of my headcanon. Because I've been reading The Lord of the Rings for 20 plus years now. And so, so I have my developed headcanon, even with really thinly sketched out stuff like what was happening in the Second Age, in Eriador and in Lindon and all that stuff. So I have my headcanon, and I will admit there were a couple of moments where I was like, ooh, I don't know. But then I had to stop and think, okay, that's just because that's how I interpreted how that character would do this or that or the other thing. There are some things where I'm like, no, they just made a change. And so if you hate that, that's fine. But it's been a good exercise for me in kind of, like I said, opening up my mind to some other possibilities that other people had different headcanon or, felt it necessary to make a change for whatever story reason. So that's fine. All right. In the meantime, let's see. What are we talking about here? Let's just pull this up so we can see the whole thing. So people know what we're talking about. Oh, I have to hide that after a few seconds so that everybody can see that we're in non-spoiler mode, everybody. Non-spoiler. So careful. Let's see. All right. So K Dynamite says, every time I got invested into the Galadriel or Elrond plot, or even the Arondir plot, they cut to the Harfoots, and I just wanted to fast forward. Pacing issues are my biggest gripe. And I wonder if, because I kind of agree with you, the Harfoot stuff was the weakest stuff in the show, but in a way, and stick with me on this, in a way, that's perfect, and that's as it should be, in a way. I'm going to make a bit of a stretch case here, so hang with me. But there was that great line from, I think it was W.H. Auden, who was reviewing The Return of the King. So The Return of the King comes out, it's 1955, 6, whatever it was. The Return of the King comes out, and he does a review for, I believe it was the New York Times, and is just lavishing praise on that book in particular, and the trilogy of books at that point as a whole. And his point in that was, in The Return of the King, we get to see Tolkien at his best. He is best in his high, archaic, epic mode. And he had a great line, which was kind of comparing that to the beginning of the Fellowship of the Ring, where he says something along the lines of, it's a shame that he had to start off with, or he felt like he had to start off with 100 pages of light comedy, because light comedy is not Mr. Tolkien's forte. I got to find the line. It's really good. And so anyway, in that way, I feel like the show really holds true there. That the Harfoots, these are the Hobbit progenitors, in case anybody is unfamiliar at this point. The Harfoots are the weakest part of the show, but you can kind of see how, how they're thinking in the writer's room, like, oh, well, we better put something in. Oh, you know what? Let's see if we can. Now I got a picture of some Harfoots in here somewhere. There you go. We got to put them in the show because people want hobbits. Everybody loves hobbits, and hey, it'll be a nice break from all the big epic, heroic stuff that's going on with Galadriel and Harondir or Arondir, whatever. I'll learn their names as we go. All the made up characters. But anyway, so you can see how they're like, yeah, we got to have a break. We have to have something lighthearted, and then you take a look at the lighthearted thing, and you're like, yeah, you probably shouldn't have had anything lighthearted. So yeah, I if you want to say that they were the weakest part of the show, I agree. So anyway, I guess my question here is it pacing issues really, or is it just issues with how the Harfoots were portrayed? Because I just don't. The actors are fine. There's the Kip. I know Kip is in the chat somewhere. He shared that really funny article from the Irish Times, or at least I thought it was kind of funny. It was like, after all this, bunch of anti-Irish tropes, and that's basically what the Harfoots are. Which, yeah, not having any real connection to Irish culture, I can't say one way or the other. But it does make it kind of funny. Anyway, I blacked out there for a minute. What am I talking about? Who am I? What is truth? Time is a flat circle. All right. Okay, I think Rings of Power has the better visuals, slightly, but House of Dragons doesn't feel as constrained. So if you're just joining the chat, let's see. Do we, have you guys, anybody voted yet? Yeah, we got a few. Oh, wow. Okay, we got a few votes coming in. Let's take a look. This is what Kip is referring to. The pinned comment on YouTube is this poll right here. Which one did you enjoy more? That's not to say that you didn't enjoy both, right? But which one did you enjoy more after the first 2 episodes? Because yeah, now we have 2 episodes of each. And I'm not shocked, but a little bit surprised, honestly, that House of the Dragon is doing so well compared to Rings of Power, 5-1. So yeah, we'll see kind of where that one ends up. So yeah, if you're joining the chat, make sure you go make your voice heard on that. But yeah, what did you say, Kip? House of Dragons doesn't feel as constrained. I'm curious what you mean by that. Let's see. It doesn't feel as constrained. Yeah, but maybe. Yeah, I please expound. That would be great. Okay, like it, says Manzano, but did anyone find the score a little underwhelming? The only music that was epic was the scene when Galadriel was about to enter Valinor. The score just doesn't sound Howard Shore-ish. And it's not. It's Bear McCreary. Howard Shore did the title sequence, so like the kind of main theme title sequence, but it was Bear McCreary who did the rest. So it's and I know that he is often not mimicking, but evoking Howard Shore, trying to evoke Howard Shore, and so the score just doesn't sound Howard Shore-ish. And I think that's okay. I mean, Howard Shore worked on those. He worked on 3 films for years. Getting everything just right, exactly the way that he wanted to. And TV shows, there's too much time to cover. They've got 8 hours versus, well, in Lord of the Rings case, 3-4 hours. But you've got 8 hours to cover, and you don't have as much time to work on it. And the next season is coming. You don't have the time to, perfect every single thing. But even then, I would say that I think I kind of disagree. I liked the music. I didn't love all of it. Again, the Harfoot music was the weakest, I think, out of most of it. But I liked it. I will say that was about the first thing that I noticed. And don't worry, we're not really getting into spoilers here. But one of the first thing I noticed was when I hit the play button and the Amazon logo comes up and then the screen fades to black and it's just Elven singing. It's like, oh, hey, remember that time in 2001 when you all went and saw the Fellowship of the Ring? It was very, very Fellowship of the Ring, with how they opened it up with the Elven singing and the black screen. So let's see. The only music that was epic was the scene when Galadriel was about to enter Valinor. I did love that moment. I actually really enjoyed that the elves on the boat started singing. And so it was a nice nod to the idea that it's not just you listening to this music. They're hearing the music. And I know that they mentioned that in the show, but they're hearing the music as well. So yeah, that was a nice moment. Let's see. Although that did get a little spoilerish. Again, we're riding that line here, but we'll switch to full spoilers in just a moment. Rings of Power. Okay, so Kip says Rings of Power has a couple actors that don't feel like a fit. Every House of Dragons character works for me, but none of them are trying to be elves. And that is, I mean, that's part of the challenge, isn't it? Right? You're trying to portray something that is otherworldly or more powerful, wise, sophisticated, whatever, than a human being. Well, good luck, right? That's why, like, my thumbnail for this video was it kind of referenced my long-standing love for Galadriel. I've always loved Galadriel as a character, but especially I love Cate Blanchett's portrayal of Galadriel in The Lord of the Rings, because she is able to, like, her posture, her poise, the look that she puts on her face, she's able to make Galadriel something surhuman, like she is something other than human, above human, and and I love her portrayal of that. And with sorry, but no, back to the thumbnail. It was mostly a joke, but I actually like this Galadriel. She is different. She's different than my headcanon. She's different than what we saw from Cate Blanchett. But if we just step back and go, okay, you know what, this is fan fiction, and they're trying to tell this story, and this is how this character fits in. Yeah, I like watching Galadriel in this show. So there you go. Oh, this is interesting. The characters and their designs in Rings of Power grew on me over the 2 episodes. The short hair on the elves didn't bother me as much as I thought I would. I agree with that. I don't know if I ever expected to be bothered by it, but I did notice it after a while. The short hair, and it's one of those things. It's just even if you have this immediate. What am I trying to say? This kind of knee jerk reaction to something like, oh, that's not. I don't like that. You kind of take a step back and go, is it because I don't like it or because it's not what I'm used to? And so with Peter Jackson's movies, we got such a thoroughgoing aesthetic for all the elves. They all look this way, and obviously they have different costumes for the different elf cultures or whatever. But they all look and feel a certain way, and in this they're like, actually we're gonna shave a couple of their heads off, and off. We're gonna shave their heads, and here you go. This is how elves look in this. This is how these elves look, and yeah, you kind of have that reflexive like, ooh, I don't know. But then I take a step back and go, okay, so I had a picture in my head that was largely put there by filmmakers and illustrators of what the elves should look like, and now these filmmakers or showrunners, I guess, have a different idea, and I can give it a shot. Yeah, like you, it didn't bother me. So, Kayla, haven't seen House of Dragons yet. You should. Well, I mean, if you're down for a little, violence and nudity and all that stuff, then you should watch it. It's great. But really enjoyed Rings of Power. Very much looking forward to the next few weeks. I agree. If we want to get down to the very basic, like it, didn't like it, whatever, I liked Rings of Power. I liked it quite a bit. There were things about it that if I were the showrunner, I probably wouldn't have done the way that they did. And that's fine. There's no problem with that. There are always going to be those things, or at least there should always be those things. But I thought it was a well done, well constructed show. Let's see. I'm also wondering where Celeborn is at this point. Celebrian should have been born already, right? But Elrond doesn't mention her or even hint at it while talking to Galadriel. Are they omitting them? That's a great question. Should we? At what point should we? I kind of want to come back to this one, okay? Because I want to get into just at least one spoilery thing. It's not much of a spoiler. It's whatever, but I'll wait a few minutes. Baba Trilling, hello. Wow, 2 hours of Craig live streams. That's impressive. And yes, Baba, I am reusing this poll. For those of you who don't know, I do another live stream at 2 p.m. Eastern on reviews.org. Hey, there it is, reviews.org. And so we kind of talked about some of this, but in this live stream, I tend to get more into the actual content of the show, just for reasons, because this is the place where we can actually talk about that. That makes sense. I liked it, but I guess I need to be more open-minded. And it's you could say it that way if you want to. My point is, I needed to be more open-minded, and I know that there are a lot of people on the internet who do need to be more open-minded. I don't know if you're one of them. So that's not what I was trying to get across when I was talking about that. Anyway, let's see. Okay, the reason I said pacing earlier was I felt they decided to cut the different POVs right when things started to get interesting. Made me feel impatient. It's a fine line while handling multiple POVs. Yeah, it's kind of reminds me of like in the Two Towers, they had the way that originally they were constructing it, right? They're laying out the screenplay for the Lord of the Rings trilogy, back in whatever it would have been, 1998 or something. And they were trying to follow the books as close as they reasonably could. And then they figured out that as they were they would have been, when they got to the Two Towers, the end of the Two Towers, it would have been Helm's Deep intercut with the Lair of Shelob, intercut with the Battle of Isengard. And they were like, it's too much. We can't put all these things together. And so they ended up shoving Shelob into the third movie. And then they did have to walk that tightrope with Helm's Deep versus Merry and Pippin and Fangorn Forest and all that. And there are some people even now who say that they don't like the pacing in the Battle of Helm's Deep because every time it gets interesting, it cuts away to Merry and Pippin, which I get. I don't really feel that way, at least with the Two Towers. But in this case, it's something I'd have to give a little more thought to. And I am going to be watching it again with my wife tonight. She was on kid duty, so tonight she gets to watch it, and I'll watch it again with her. So but I'll be watching for that. I really enjoyed it. Had a scope and feel to it that I've been missing in fantasy adaptation. Well, hello. Critical Dragon joins us in the chat. I agree that as a culture, or it's hard to say. It's hard to say, but pop culture has definitely been leaning way more toward the Martin side of things, which has its value. I'm not trying to say that it doesn't, but the scope, the feel, that kind of high, heroic, epic feel that imbues Tolkien so much is really, really pleasurable. And then on the other side, you have Martin, who I think I was talking about this in the other live stream. Sorry, I'm going to get confused. So Martin, of course, is responding to that by saying, well, yeah, but don't they ever poop? And doesn't anybody ever have sex? And, where's all this stuff in Tolkien? And so he writes his version of, what it would feel like to live in that world. And that's really cool stuff. But it's like, it swings so far that way. That's, seems to be what people want more of, is that kind of grim feel. And now with the Rings of Power, it's pulling it back from that and saying, no. Let's make it heroic again. Which I quite enjoy. I know that that's not the world as it is, but hey, this is fantasy. And I like a little bit of heroic epicness to my fantasy. So yeah, I really enjoyed it too. All right, what do you guys think? Should we switch into spoiler mode so we can have a little freer discussion? We've given over 20 minutes to those who, if you have not seen the show yet, I hope you've enjoyed this discussion of it. But I think we should just, not that I have a single burning thing that I want to get to, but I want to stop dancing around it. So I'm gonna go change that. Okay, so we're gonna put this on. There we go. All right, we're in spoiler mode, officially in spoiler mode, everybody. All right. What was I going to say? There was a comment. See, there, Canavan coming up in here with your fancy words and your vocabulary. Ethereal and numinous. Couldn't agree more. That is, yeah, it's okay. The scene when the only time I think ethereal quite fits is when with the ship, heading into like the gates of, to the portal to the magical land of Narnia. Like that felt very ethereal. The rest of it, it kind of, it's walking a line almost between that kind of ethereal, elven, otherworldliness and, and asking the question that Martin asks, which is, what would it actually feel like to live in this world? And so no, we're not going to get a whole bunch of like sex and beheadings and dismemberments and whatever else happened in the first episode of House of the Dragon. but it does kind of get into, oh no, the elves are political creatures. No, they don't just act with one will all of the time. People have disagreements, and Gil-galad was kind of trying to push Galadriel out of the picture. We're done with you. I'm sick of you stirring up trouble. Go off to Valinor. Get out of here. And that kind of, it's not gritty or grungy in the way that Westeros is, but it's a little bit more real than the glimpses we get in The Lord of the Rings, where everybody's just like, okay, and here is the course of action we shall take. At least on the elven side of things. So, boy, that was a tangent. There you go. Lady Sweden. Just finished watching episode 2. I hope you enjoyed it. What do we think? The end of episode 2 is there's a boat. Galadriel and her companion, I can't remember his name, get rescued by a boat. Numenorians, right? It's got to be Numenorians. Okay, where was I? I was going to say something. Oh, yes. Okay. I remember. I wanted to come back to this comment. Elrond doesn't mention anything about Celeborn. This is Galadriel's husband, and Celebrian. Are they omitting them? It's possible. But there was one moment from the show, and this is what I wanted to wait till we were in spoiler mode so I could talk about this. There was one moment in the show that I really, really enjoyed, just conceptually, and it's the conversation when Elrond he goes to Khazad-dûm and he's trying to get Durin's help. And Durin's pissed. He is not having any of this. He's mad because Elrond's been away for 20 years. You missed my wedding. You missed the birth of my child. You missed all this stuff. And now you come back here and just expect, a warm welcome. And they have this conversation about how time just works differently when you are immortal. And so Elrond is like, sorry, I guess it's been 20 years. And Durin's like, you're damn right, it's been 20 years. And that's, dwarves live longer than humans do, but still 20 years is a significant portion of a dwarf's life. And so, hey, I thought we were friends, and you don't even check in for 20 years. And I really like that concept. Anyway, the way this is tying in is when we talk about, are they omitting Celeborn? Are they omitting Celebrian? It could be, it could be that they'll just kind of come into play later, because for elves, it's like, yeah, mom's been gone for 15 years, or 150 years hunting Sauron. But that's like, oh yeah, for us, it would be like, yeah, mom's on a business trip. She's been away for 2 weeks, like it's just things would be a little bit different. So, you're right. We haven't seen them yet in the show, and presumably we will. But even if we don't, we can kind of just chalk it up to, hey, she's doing other stuff right now. So, all right. Where was I? I want to make sure I didn't miss anybody. Oh yeah, back to Martin versus Tolkien. Martin's articulation of the gritty pseudo-medieval had the grandeur and sheer scale. Yeah, and I love that stuff. I think I skipped that earlier. Galadriel found the shipwrecked humans in the Sundering Sea as she was swimming from Aman. So are these supposed to be Numenorians? Like, would people from Middle-earth be hanging out this far west? It's a great question, and we don't know how long she was swimming. Of course, the elves have superhuman, supernatural or preternatural physical gifts. So who knows? Maybe she'd been swimming for days, and she'd covered hundreds of miles. I don't know. So we don't know exactly who they are. I think that's part of the mystery. Who are you? What are you running from? I'm wondering, okay, now we're getting into some lore stuff here, but I'm wondering if these are Numenorians who were being chased out by the king's men. Yeah, right. So you have the people who are loyal to the king and they kind of turn evil, versus the Numenorians who they call themselves the faithful. They retain their affinity with the elves. Of course, probably not that, because they immediately distrust her when they see that she's an elf. But, who knows? Maybe it's something like that. Or maybe they're just criminals or something from Numenor and they got shipwrecked. Yeah, we don't know exactly what's going on there. Or at least, I don't remember. I'm watching it again tonight, so I guess we'll see. I would bet if someone liked the Hobbit movies, they will also like Rings of Power. I heartily disliked the Hobbit movies for the most part, but quite enjoyed this. And we can get into why if you want, but I'm let's see. You said earlier that you did not like this, right? Oh no, you said that you liked the first episode of Rings of Power, but not the second one. Okay, yeah. Let's see. As soon as who leaves, you say they were supposed to have foresight, and everything turns to crap as soon as she leaves. I guess I guess I'm not sure. Wait, where were we? There we. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what you're referring to. You'll have to remind me. If you've listened to the soundtrack, you know who the boat is. They played the theme song. Okay, so in that case, it has to be the Numenorians. I'm not going to look it up, but no, I haven't listened to the soundtrack. I wanted to go into this relatively fresh. I've kept up with the biggest pieces of news. When they wrapped filming and when the premiere would be and all that stuff. But I haven't granularly followed the production, just because I kind of wanted to come into it fresh. And as open-minded as I could. It's such a good conversation. And it's a really good reminder, especially if, like in the movies, you don't have to spend that much time on it. You can kind of just give it a line and then you move on, because the movies are going to follow, these few months in the world. But presumably with a TV show that's going to span seasons long, they're going to have more occasion to revisit this. And so they kind of need to put that in there so that you're reminded as a viewer that this is an issue. Durin and Elrond scenes were great. Yeah, I really enjoyed them. I liked Durin's wife a lot. She was a lot of fun. She made me chuckle a couple times. And Khazad-dûm as a set piece was really wonderful. Just I was tickled with that one, and I'm certain that we'll see more of it. Right, we've probably only kind of caught a glimpse of what Khazad-dûm will turn out to be in this show. But one thing I like about it is, and I actually love Jackson's portrayal of Moria in The Lord of the Rings. In part because it's so dark and it's so scary, and there are the lines in there. Gimli's like, "You should have seen it before." This place of wonder and beauty and light, and so now we do get to see that, and we get there's the big mirrors that they're shining around and all that stuff. So it's like the light and the design and the stuff that they're doing there. But the one thing that I loved more than everything else was the growing that they were doing in there, that it wasn't just rock, that Khazad-dûm is a place where they do grow, they cultivate, they use that light that they're able to bring in for that purpose. And so, you always kind of wonder, how do you support a giant underground city like this? Do you just have dwarven farms outside in the valleys, off the mountains, or what? And they kind of answer that. And it looked great. I really, really enjoyed that scene. Who do you think the mysterious man is? Is it a Balrog, a wizard, maybe Sauron himself? All right, that is the question. All right, who is the mysterious man? I don't know. Everybody's being really cagey about that. I did read one little thing an hour ago from the showrunners, or somebody who was interviewing the showrunners, and they kind of hinted that, look, just because Tolkien named 5 Istari doesn't mean there weren't others. The Istari being the wizards doesn't mean there weren't others, which I'd be a little iffy on. Timeline wise, it shouldn't be Gandalf. It may be, but Gandalf doesn't show up until the 10th century, Third Age, and so that's at least 1,000 years in the future, probably more. So timeline wise, he shouldn't be there. If they throw him in the show, as long as they do it well, I guess I'll forgive that. They're putting in Harfoots already, so whatever. But is it Sauron? I'd be surprised if it was Sauron, but that would be kind of cool. But then it wouldn't make a lot of sense for Sauron to not know who the hobbits were. I mean, or who knows? I don't know. There are a lot of fun possibilities. A Balrog, probably not a Balrog. Okay. Wasn't he Halberd, the one from the pub in the village? I'm not sure. Okay. Oops. I was wondering about that. How early is this in the founding of Numenor? Like the humans started turning against Eru, like over a long period of time, right after Sauron influenced them. Kind of, not quite. Sauron accelerated something that was already happening in Numenorean culture. He didn't start it. So Numenorean culture starts at the beginning of the Second Age. Or shortly thereafter. They got to get the ships there and start, building their cities or whatever. But the beginning of the Second Age. Second Age lasts, call it 3,000 years. It's not exact, but something like that. And where are we here? If it's about the creation of the Rings of Power, we are what minimum 2,000 years into the Second Age. I'll look it up later. Maybe 2,500, something like that. It might be even later than that. So yeah, the Rings of Power get created. There are wars between elves and humans versus Sauron and his forces, and those last for a while in Middle Earth. The Numenoreans kind of help tip the scales on that, at least according to the lore. And then it's later on, like after Sauron has been. I think I'm getting my timeline right here. Sauron's been defeated, and he comes back, and then the Numenoreans capture him. They take him to Numenor, and then he accelerates their downfall. And then, I feel like I'm mixing up a little bit in the timeline, but it's something like that. So we're pretty far into the Second Age. It's not like right at the beginning. And they are almost certainly going to be compressing timelines here. So stuff that happens over 800 years in the lore, will probably happen within certain characters' lifetimes, human characters' lifetimes in this show. We'll see. Okay. Gil-galad's discussion with Elrond as they lured Galadriel away. They talked about foresight showing they needed to get her away. Otherwise, she would somehow, in her fight against the orcs, get Sauron back. Oh, I see what I got from that combo. Yeah, like she's fighting so hard that she's going to end up bringing Sauron back. That was a weird moment. I need to watch that bit, especially again. Okay. I think we talked about that by the time you were in here, but I'm not totally sure. But yeah, we were just kind of talking about that a few minutes ago. Durin's wife seemed to have sideburns. Should be happy, or even if not a full beard. Yeah, I didn't spot the sideburns. You know what? I've got. I think I've got. Oh no, I don't have a picture of her. Where is she? There she is. Let's open that up. Where is she? Here we go. They're not going to show it here. Oh, okay. I don't know. I'll have to watch it again for the sideburns. It would have been fun if they'd given the dwarf ladies beards. I would have really liked that, gotten a kick out of it. But you can understand why they're like, hey, it's not just a bunch of Tolkien geeks that are going to be watching the show, and that would be off-putting if the dwarf women had beards. So I can get the decision, but that would have been really fun. I'll watch for some sideburns tonight. Yeah, absolutely. Such a great scene. I think it's Gandalf, and I don't like it. That's I understand. Okay. Why did they make it seem like Gil-galad had to gift them a trip to Valinor? Yeah, that was a little lore change that I didn't particularly care for. I thought every elf could decide to go to Valinor whenever they chose to. That is accurate. There is an open call, and so that part I can see why it did, and it will create more tension and drama in the show. And so for storytelling purposes, I get it. And I'm not going to like burn anyone in effigy over it. But I didn't care for that. As you know, I try not to be too purist about these things, but some things catch up to you, and you're like, ooh. Oof. So, totally Gandalf, the stranger, totally Gandalf, the way he whispered to the fireflies. Yeah, I had that realization too, that was a lot like the way he would whisper to the moth on top of Sauron's tower. But it could be a really great bit of misdirection. You know, who knows? Maybe it's Radagast. Let's see. I did like Moria's as violins. Yep. Let's see. Okay, I'm falling behind. I'm going to try to burn through some of these. Let's see. It was nice to see my boy Finrod at the start. I have no idea what he was trying to say with the boats and rocks. That's another one. Yeah, I'll write that quote down. We're gonna record an episode about the first 2 episodes tomorrow night. Me and Ryan and Stephanie. And so I'm sure there'll be moments like that I need to actually write down what they're saying. But remind me if I forget. Remind me to come back to Finrod for something from the show that actually it kind of hurt me a little bit. That I didn't like. Not enough to not like the show, but it was a moment where I was like, pass. But I want to try to burn through some of these. Let's see. Is it a blue wizard? That could be fun. I think it's going to be an original wizard character, not one of the 5 from the Third Age. Yeah, that's kind of the way that my brain is leaning right now, though I kind of hope it's not that, but it seems most likely. That would be the Man in the Moon. The meteor thing was inspired by Bilbo's poem of Man in the Moon. It could be. I was thinking it could be Saruman. Yeah, I mean, it could be anybody really at this point. So your guess is as good as mine. Yeah. I doubt that it would be that. That would be fun. Kind of like the bearded women. Dwarf women. That would be fun. But I doubt it. Has to be a Maiar of some sort. I think I agree with that. I don't know about has to be, but is almost certainly, in order to physically achieve the meteor drop. Yeah, probably a Maiar of some kind. Why meteorite the Astari to Middle Earth? More in line with an eagle ride. Fair enough. Oh, does she has hair along her jawline? Not a lot though. Oh man, I am definitely going to be watching for that. That's really fun. Yeah, okay. This is a good comment. They have to be very careful about what bits of the Silmarillion they allude to. Very fine tightrope. The estate gave them leave for a couple of things. Oh, interesting. Okay. Like I said, I've purposely not followed too closely with the production history on this. Partly because, there's been a lot, and we talked about this last week, there's been a lot of reflexive, this is going to suck, or this is the greatest thing since the publication of The Lord of the Rings, and I didn't want to get sucked into any of that, and so I didn't follow much about the production. So, but that's interesting. I'd be curious what the couple of things were that they had leave to use. The thing is, when you go, because I just did the video that I released yesterday before the show came out about what you can read from the appendices, the Lord of the Rings appendices, to kind of prepare for the show. At least, from what we knew at that point, when it would take place and who it would follow and that sort of thing. And so I kind of highlighted a bunch of the sections in the appendices that you can read. And as I was reviewing the appendices, I was reminded again of just how much information is in there. Obviously, something like the downfall of Numenor is sketched out in more detail in Akallabeth, but there are bits in the appendices where you can take that, you have this giant canvas, and they're like, yeah, he painted, or he outlined kind of what happened, and that gives them a ton of leave to sketch in the rest and paint over it, and there is a lot of info in there. So for anybody out there who has read The Lord of the Rings, who has skipped the appendices, it's gold. It's really good stuff. So give it another look. Okay. You guys are going faster than I can. Then I think they didn't cover that in the exposition well enough. They made it seem like Sauron had disappeared after the War of Wrath, and orcs hadn't been seen since then. Yeah, that's kind of what isn't that what they said? Right. Yeah, we did talk about that a few minutes ago. It would be weird if it was one of the wizards, but the Harfoots don't show up for thousands of years after this Rings of Power timeline. So who knows? They're like, hey, it's Lord of the Rings. We need hobbits. We need wizards. So they might have just compressed some timelines. We'll see. Let's see. Devin says, I like it more than I thought. Sad that the marketing was so bad. I think it's going to make people write it off very early. It's possible. I didn't love the posters that they put out, but some of the marketing they did I thought was fine. Did I miss the discussion on episode 2 House of Dragons? No, we may talk about some of that in a little while. I'm not sure. Gosh, we've already been going for 45 minutes, you guys. So we may get to it. We may not. I'm not planning to granularly follow House of Dragons on these what's this called? Who am I? Live stream. What is truth? Time is a flat circle. Okay. Stranger could be another Ainur we don't know about. Yeah. How do you feel about the fact he can barely talk? I don't like it because I think a Maiar wouldn't get disoriented like that. Well, maybe. I mean, Gandalf the White has to recover some of his memories, right? It's not like he forgot how to talk, but he does have to recover. Well, no, is that just the movie version? See, this is what happens. Things get jumbled up. Is that just let's see. Let's see. If the definitive version of something that's mentioned in the appendices is found in the Silmarillion, then the Silmarillion is considered the source. Oh, boy. Well, then it does get sticky, doesn't it? Oof. And they don't have the rights for that, right? Yeah. Yeah, this is fair enough. Might be disorienting. By definition, absolutely. You know what? Okay. Padre Philippe. I love the Galadriel snow troll fight. Snow troll. That was another, we've got cave trolls and snow trolls. Sure, snow trolls. Fine. She can handle that sword in a totally elfy way. But rope's not so elegant. I really enjoyed that fight scene just from a fan perspective or whatever. I wasn't watching it with anybody. I was alone here in the studio watching it on that TV back there. And so, and I guess my point just being, I wasn't in a theater with people cheering when Legolas rides he snowboards down the steps or skateboards or whatever you want to call it. So it wasn't that. But even then, I still had just a big grin on my face when I watched how they dispatched the troll. It was fun. It was good. Let's see. Hello, everybody. I'm new here. Morgan, welcome. Another reviews.org watcher. So one day Morgan's going to learn my name. I'm going to be so excited. Did you follow along the maps they showed during the show? Yeah, I love the maps. Really enjoyed what they did with the maps. And that was another bit of fun for me as somebody who's been reading Tolkien a lot for 20 plus years, is when the map. How do I put this? It's fun in a it's finally paying off kind of way. Where when you watch The Lord of the Rings, it kind of, if you've seen it, you've probably seen The Lord of the Rings enough that you're like, oh yeah, I've heard of Gondor, I've heard of Mordor, I know what the Shire is. You want to tell me about Rohan? You want to tell me about Lothlorien? Fine, like I know those place names, and so you see him swooping over the map, and you can kind of pick up on the place names. And then in this one, they in bright kind of fiery golden letters they put Forodwaith, and I'm like, finally, it's paying off. I know what Forodwaith is, and I know where it is, and I know its history, and this is so much fun. So for that reason, I liked it, and I did like how they kind of used it for some transitions. I actually think they probably could have used it more. I think it would be a cool way to help people situate themselves in the world. But maybe they feel like people don't want or need that. Could be. Okay, let's see. Should have mentioned Beleriand in the first episode by showing the map or otherwise. Yeah, there were a couple of things like that where I just thought they're trying to make it as simple as possible. I mean, there's nothing simple about the history of Middle-earth, but they're trying to make it more accessible for people who aren't diehard fans like myself. And that was one way, because I noticed that too. Yeah, they kind of glossed over a lot of stuff like that, especially something that I think is really cool. So you sunk an entire continent because you're pissed at everybody. Like that is a moment from the story. But is it necessary for the show? It's not. They didn't say that it didn't happen, but they just kind of, we're going to skip past that. So should they have mentioned Beleriand? I don't think so, but could they have? That would have been fun. All right. That fight scene was the most Elvish so far. Felt they've been a bit stiff and not as graceful as in the original movies, which it kind of goes along with the aesthetic that they're going for. Like I said, they're not going full Martin with this show, and we knew that already. But it is trying to make Middle-earth feel more real, which I like. I like that Middle-earth feels more real, but retains some of that. What did you say, AP? What were your words? Now I got to go back and find them. Ethereal and numinous. Yes. I like that. Okay. So I know there was a comment I was going to go, never go full Martin. That's right. Because if you do, you'll never finish. There was a comment I wanted to come back to. Oh, I probably lost it. Oh, I think was it a Bernard? Oh, there it is. Okay, good. Bernard, thank you for this comment, because it reminded me of one thing from the show that I did actively dislike. There were some changes that that gave me pause. But that I was like, okay, I can be open-minded enough for that. But there was one moment. All right. So Finrod Felagund, that is Galadriel's older brother, and we see them interact at the kind of in the prologue at the very beginning of the show. And then he dies in the War of, I guess pre-War of Wrath, whatever. He dies. She mourns him. And then she's is it in Lindon, when there are the statues carved into the trees of, several elf heroes. And if you watch close, you can pick up on who a few of them may be. But some of the elf heroes carved into the trees. And when I saw that, I did have a little bit of like my rage meter was just because it defies everything that I know about who the elves are. And take your pick about what your source is, whether it's The Hobbit or The Lord of the Rings or even the films, or certainly the Silmarillion. The idea that the elves would carve into living trees these statues or monuments was borderline offensive. It just does not fit, and it drove me crazy. Maybe I need to lighten up a little bit. That's fine. But that was one moment where I was like, nope. If I had been anywhere near that writer's room, I would have burned it to the ground before I let that happen. That just felt so wrong to me. All right. Oh yeah, you guys are reminding me what I was supposed to talk about. Thank you for taking offense to the Guardians. I'm glad I'm not the only one. It was, yeah. I mean, I've said what really there is to say. There's not a whole lot to say about it other than no. The whole idea behind the elves in Tolkien is that they live with nature. They or how should I? They work with nature. This idea of like the flets in Lothlorien are built like around the trees and atop the branches, and it's of course, how do you affix them? You gotta bolt them in, like it's gonna hurt the tree, so. But hey, they're elves. They have magic. They have freaking wooden armor. Why not? So yeah, it felt off to me. All right. Anyway, I can't believe we've gone an hour already. That's amazing. But here's what I'm hoping for. Well, first of all, let's see if did you guys put any more? Oh, come on. Anything else on that poll? Where are we at? We're at 13 votes. I'll put it up for you. So 8-5. You guys are saying House of Dragons over Rings of Power. Fair enough. Yeah. If it's me personally, over 2 episodes, I would say that I enjoyed Rings of Power more. But if you remember back to the very beginning of Game of Thrones, a decade ago, it took them a few episodes to get the story going. And that doesn't mean the first episodes weren't good. They were very good. They were very well written, very well acted. They were riveting to watch, but the story didn't really get going for a while. And I'm leaving room for that with House of Dragons as well. I really enjoyed House of Dragons. And I intend to continue enjoying it. But I wonder if halfway through each of these respective seasons, if I might end up swinging toward House of Dragons if it's as good as the first season of Game of Thrones, which is lightning in a bottle, right? But over the first 2 episodes, my money's on Rings of Power. It is really well done so far. And it's a bit like how, and I've talked about this on the podcast, Lord of the Rings Risk. Ryan and I used to play that a lot when we were teenagers. And I maintain that it is, if not the best, it's certainly one of the very best versions of Risk out there. Not just because it's the Lord of the Rings, right? It's a really well constructed game. They took the bones of Risk and added a few things onto it that made it even better. And so it's a really great version of Risk. Oh, and it's also the Lord of the Rings. And so I'm kind of disposed toward liking it anyway. And I wonder if the Rings of Power is going to end up being that way, where it's like, it's a great TV show. They're telling a fun story. And it's Middle Earth. So I'm kind of just disposed toward it. And I will always acknowledge that bias within me. Okay. So, all right. When did the elves settle Lothlorien? That's a great question. I don't. It says so in the appendices. Off the top of my head, I can't remember. I like how the elf Nicholas and Gimli always competed. Oh yeah, back in the Lord of the Rings movies, they were funny. All right, guys, I am gonna call it there and go have myself a weekend, at least until tomorrow night when it's back onto the microphones to hash this all out with Ryan and Stephanie. Maybe I'll get Sarah in on that too, because she'll have watched it tonight with me. So anyway, thanks very much for hanging out for an hour in this live stream. Really appreciate it. And of course, I'll be back next week at the same time. And so if, you know what, I don't know if AP's still here, but maybe we should get you on one of these live streams after a Rings of Power episode and hash some of these things out. That'd be fun. But what was I going to say? Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy House of Dragon, the House of the Dragon, episode 3. And we'll have an episode out on Monday for you about Rings of Power. So I'll see you guys later.